So today I will discuss a few questions, the previous year questions, the subjective questions, the 5 marks, the 10-mark question. And I solved those questions. We'll discuss on it. How you can write on a specific kind of questions, right, in subjective matters. So I think 2016 or 17 years question, few 4 or 5 questions that I have solved. I will discuss on it. Recently in previous classes, as I told you, that I started writing in, the points, right? So if the 10 marks questions, write down at least the 5 points, and you can explain it by point. So here we'll discuss that. So I think if you guys are following the pattern, or if you guys have ever tried to solve the questions of previous years, you know that कि किसी ने देखा है previous year questions papers like 2018, 19, पिछले साल का नहीं आया है, but before that, like 2021, 20 के questions, and 1 year or 3 years. Or
Yes,
have
sir.
you ever tried to solve it? Not even the MCQ, I'm talking about the subjective also. कि subjective solve करने questions किए. Maybe the question will be different, but approach, how you approach the questions, that's the point. That's we'll discuss today. What should be your approach? Because maybe sometimes, as you can see, if you are following those things, most of the time is a situational kind of things that they ask. Maybe sometimes they ask for the how inside the rural areas temple, right? He explain the lighting condition of that areas. Maybe in some question they ask if you are on a bus stand, which kind of lighting situations are there, right? If you are inside the mall, how it will be, right? So most of the time they are asking for the lighting conditions. It's based on how you experience those things, right? So basically, if you experience those things and you observe, there is answers. Always there is answers. So that kind of question is there. अभी ये जो question है, it's related to the pack shot. That's called the product photography. The question is, you have a DSLR camera with a kit lens. Suppose you want to shoot the bottom of a glass bottle. List two. Two different way of doing it by. One is camera placement with respect to the bottle. Second is creatively position the bottle, draw a sketch depicting camera and glass bottles, placement in support of your answer. One more thing, अगर आपने यहाँ क्वेश्चन में देखा होगा कि it didn't mean that if you don't know how to sketch, sketching नहीं आती है, didn't mean that कि आपके आंसर्स सही नहीं होंगे. At least you can write down there is the bottles. Simple drawing will be there because there is no extra marks for the sketching at all. उसमें मार्क्स नहीं है, तो डोंट गेट कंफ्यूज कि अगर आपको स्केचिंग नहीं आती तो मार्क्स नहीं मिलेंगे. इफ यू एक्सप्लेन इन प्रॉपर मैनर, सपोज आपने कैमरा बना दिया एंड इफ यू मेक द प्रोडक्ट समथिंग लाइक दैट, तो कैमरा एंगल और प्रोडक्ट दिख गया, दैट्स ओके फॉर देम. और द प्रोडक्ट बना दिया, दैट विल बी ओके, बिकॉज दे आर नॉट वॉन्डरिंग अबाउट कि आपकी स्केचिंग आती. अगर ऐसा होता तो ये लिखा हुआ नहीं रहता. दे आर डायरेक्टली मेंशन ओवर देयर इज नो मार्क्स फॉर स्केचिंग. सिर्फ ड्रॉ करने के लिए आपको कहता है. So here are the two things. Maybe it was in for the 10 marks question, I think. Key two things that they explain over here, clearly that you have kit lens. So most of the camera have the kit lenses 1855, right? There's a most of the, अगर by default तुम देखोगे तो every camera manufacturer जो है वो अगर kit lens दे रहा है, that is 1855, and most kit lenses like जो उसके aperture होंगे, it's not wide opening, it's not 1.4. Most of the time it's not fast lenses. Kit lenses are always not fast lenses. These all our lenses are slow lenses. So it means it will start it from 4 or more than 4, or maybe there is a variation, that's a 3.5 to 5.6. That's called lens ramping, right? If your lens have the things, if you are shooting on the wide, suppose if you have 1855 and you are shooting on 18, right? Your aperture will be at the maximum opening. But once you are on 55, automatically आपका aperture 5.6 हो जाएगा by not changing by manually. Automatically it happened. When you are shooting in the manual mode, the reason is the diameter don't have that much of a space to open. So that's the problem with the most kit lenses. So here the question in this questions, you have to make it clear when you are using kit lenses that at what focal length you're gonna shoot. कि आप किस फोकल लेंथ पे शूट कर रहे हो. सो बेसिकली ये एक्सप्लेन करने से होगा कि व्हाट इज द प्रॉब्लम. यू कैन आस्क मी कि आई विल टेल देम आई विल शूट ऑन 35 mm, I will shoot on 40 mm. Why I need to mention it, and why I will shoot on 55 mm, why I need to mention it. Okay, there's a lens ramping. The reason is, as I told you earlier, that they want to know that you do you have experience or not in terms of product photography. Do you have, or do you have experience of DSLR camera or not in terms of kit lenses? Maybe our kit lens, they will not mention the kit lens, they only mention the camera. So you can shoot on any lenses, but they mention a specifically kit lens. It means they wanted to know that thing. So do you know the kit lens or limitation of kit lens or not? So that's the things. That's where they mention over here. So read questions clearly 2 or 3 times. Most of the things comes out from there. At least you got to know what to write, right? Let's started with point number 1. The firstly that आपको क्या पूछा है क्वेश्चन में? Suit the bottom of a glass bottle. Basically, is the glass. So the first things, product must be clean. So clean surface means just read it once. Before even thinking of taking any photos, the first step is to make sure that the bottle that you wish to shoot is absolutely spotless, clean. Any greasy marks or dust on its surface will show up as if under a magnifying glass once the bottle has been lit and photographed. Wearing cotton gloves, carefully wipe down the bottle with glass cleaning fluid using a cloth or paper tissues, then remove any dust with a quick blast or canned air. Now the things is that what I mentioned over there, but the purpose of this, you got at least 1 point once you started shooting any product. It's not only about the glass bottles. If maybe in another question, they will ask for another product, right? That's the difference between product photography or आप जो shoot करते normal the models. That's the basic difference between, the product and the models. Because each and every time, maybe you will get the different skin tone or maybe darker or lighter, but the size and shape is remain same. For the facial, the structure is remain same, but for the product, it's totally different. Because sometimes in terms of size, in terms of shape, product will be different. Sometimes of surface, it will be different. कोई बहुत glossy होगा, कोई बहुत matte होगा, right? कोई cylindrical shape होगा, किसी का square होगा, किसी का rectangle होगा. So every time approach will not remain same, right? But this approach for the any glass product or metal product, any kind of that kind of product, जिसपे कि marks आ जाएंगे, if you are holding over there, आपके finger के marks आ जाते हैं. So you can write this point, surface should be clean for any product, right? Or either आप suppose करो for in tetra pack that you are shooting, it must be clean. अब उसके words or you can use this point. Your product must be clean. Your product must be, yeah, like in proper shape. Suppose you are shooting with a tetra pack, maybe they ask. So tetra pack क्या होता है? बंद होते हैं, bottom से बहुत सारे scratches आ जाते हैं. So then there should be no any scratch on it. It should be clean. So the one point is, if maybe they ask for any product shoot, is clean surface. And now you can, explain it in your own way. How will be your approach to make it clean? अभी यहाँ पर wipe से भी कर रहे हैं, उससे भी कर रहे हैं, but if something that is the paper one ऐसे होंगे जिसपे पानी नहीं लगा सकते, तो there is another way जिससे आप remove कर सकते हो. You can use canned air के pressure से उसे clean कर सकते हैं. So, approach will be different, but the things is remain same, that your product should look neat and clean. The manual mode, obviously, you have to shoot in manual mode because you cannot use any like aperture priority mode or shutter priority mode. If you have your control in your on hand, you can use it properly, right? The thing is that once you are shooting a bottles and a product, you need a. अभी इसमें question क्या था? Bottom of the bottle. So you need great depth of field. So now here you can explain one thing. Just choose the manual mode or any mode that you wanted to shoot for any product, and be specific on 1 point or 2 point. Why we for an example here, I just be specific about the aperture because I set over here I'll shoot on f11. So the reason is that I wanted that kind of great depth of field. That's why I choose f11, right? For the same things you can mention for the another product in which you have to create a motion blur, so you can explain shutter speed over there. right? Or either you have to freeze the motion, you can use faster shutter speed, but you have to write it, right? So the things is that they got to know, examiner got to know that, oh, you know that these things, because when once you are shooting these things, you know exposure, you know compensation, you know where aperture should be used, where shutter should be used, कि किसकी कहाँ पर priority है according to the product, according to the situations, you know that. That's the reason they will ask this kind of questions. बाकी ये तो कोई क्वेश्चन ही नहीं है, basically it's not a question, it's just totally practical. But you must have to think, once you are shooting this kind of things, what should be your approach. So in manual mode or any mode, if you explain over there, maybe here could be the another mode. You can say that the aperture priority mode, that will be for the different kind of product, but you must have to explain. So here we have already explained 2 points, the clean surface and manual mode. So क्या हुआ, आपके पास अभी 2 points आ गए, you have the 2 pointers. No. Once again, here. Once again. Okay. Now the third point is the kit lenses, because already they have mentioned the kit lens. So you have to explain, in that particular kit lens, it is 1855. So why you use 55 and why you use 18, you must have to mention it. So that's why here I mentioned, because of 18, it's look bit distorted, right? And also when you are shooting a product, your center of interest is product. So you need narrow areas, not the bigger areas. So just explain those things, why you are choosing it. Just explain those points. Don't write on, okay, I will shoot on 55. So why you are choosing 55, just explain it. You can even explain the, I will choose 18 mm. But you must have a reason why you will choose 18 mm. So anything that you're going to use, just explain it. Either in terms of, the exposure, either in terms of mode, anything, just explain those things. So here you mentioned that the 1855. So automatically you can explain one more thing. That's the lens ramping. Now your lens become 5.6, because most of the lenses have this kind of problems. Okay, if you need to draw it, these are the references. Or could be the bottom differ, could be the top angle. Read it once.
Sir,
Yeah.
sir, I'm Gautam here. Just now only I have joined the class. So
This one?
no, just now only I have joined the class.
Oh.
So now what are you taking?
We are just explaining how to shoot. The previous 2016 or 17, there was a question. So that how to shoot a glass bottles, right?
Okay.
So we are discussing those things only, and you will get the recording in which already that I have explained. So it will be the water there. So now there is electricity.
No, right now I have enough charge. So
Oh,
Thank
या टू पोजीशन दैट वी हैव, आपको एग्जांपल भी दिखा दिया मैंने कि देयर इज अ मोर रियलिस्टिक पोजीशन कि आप यहाँ बॉटम ऑफ द ग्लास भी दिख रहा है, ऑन द आई लेवल विल बी कैमरा विल बी ऑन आई लेवल। हियर व्हाट यू कैन एक्सप्लेन, अगर ज्यादा मार्क्स है या आपने इफ यू लेफ्ट समथिंग ओवर राइट, कि ऊपर के कुछ पॉइंट्स भूल गए हैं आप, दैट वी हैव ऑलरेडी मेंशन ओवर देयर, like kit lenses, manual mode, clean surface, or anything else that you can add on. So for the camera positioning, because they have clearly asked over here in this question, you can see two different ways: camera placement with respect to the bottle, creative positioning the bottles. दो angle पूछ रहा है basically, in two angles how you're gonna shoot. So for that reason, you can explain these two angles, why you wanted to shoot in this angle and why you wanted to shoot in this angle. Also, you can explain about the, if you are on eye level, about the background, about the lighting, how backlight can, could work on this kind of product on the glasses. How you can make A's on the glasses. So if you wanted to write it more, you can write about the lighting position also. And in terms of framing, you can talk about the background, you can talk about the backdrop also. उसके बारे में भी आप बात कर सकते हैं. So these are the points that you can discuss. For any product, we'll discuss another product also. Even you guys can do one thing. Take any products and try to explain how you're gonna shoot it. Just write about those things. Right now, I started writing about. Suppose for an example, मैं आपको बताऊं कि how you're gonna shoot a metal product. What will be your approach when you are shooting a metal product? Right. So now you can explain it your own ways, but the things will remain same. यही सारे points ऐसे ही आएंगे. In terms of lighting, it's more reflective, right? So that point you can add on. तो ऐसे बहुत से पॉइंट है, बट द अप्रोच विल रिमेन सेम फॉर एवरी प्रोडक्ट शूट, है ना? ये जो 4-5 पॉइंट्स हैं, इसी के साथ आप एक्सप्लेन कर सकते हैं इस क्वेश्चन में। होता है लिमिट। चलिए, प्रोडक्ट से रिलेटेड ही दूसरा क्वेश्चन है। What are 4 important things you will take care while shooting high speed shots of, say, milk pouring in a pack shot of milk powder advertisement? Firstly, you have to, again, I'm telling you, read it clearly. They are talking about photography or videography. Because if there is a videography, there is a different approach to shoot. In terms of, here we'll use to freeze the motion, or to it we'll use a shutter speed, but in videos, you have to use the FPS. So read it clearly, is they are asking for the photography or videography. Normal आते ही बस कूद नहीं जाना है, started answering it. Not do like that. Read it carefully, then start answering it. So the question is, milk pouring को दिखाना है shooting with. So the things is that milk pouring means that you have to shoot on higher speed, right? To freeze the motions, pouring का shot दिखाना है, you must have to freeze the motion. The first thing is the high quality camera. The reason is milk pouring photography obviously needs a camera that can be configured to shoot a milliseconds. Lower quality camera like most compact digital camera at best will give you shots of movement, but the overall image would usually be blurry. What you will need is a high quality camera that at least allow you to adjust the speed up and shutter speed to be able to really freeze the moment. No. Micro lens, the reason is micro lens because milk pouring dikhana, you have to shoot that the droplet and each and everything. The detailing of milk, right? So that's the reason you can write down this one. You use micro lens to get in detail of it because of pouring के छोटे छोटे shots और वो texture दिखाने के लिए, texture of the milk अगर आप white में shoot करोगे, normal किसी lens से shoot करोगे, it won't comes out. So for the micro lenses there should be the texture और उसमें क्या होगा, चीजें डिटेलिंग में दिखाई देंगे. So you can add on these things when it's time for the choosing the lenses. If you really want to produce the best result, it would be a good idea to use a true macro lens. Aside from allowing you to shoot from a shorter working distance, it delivers those sharp close-up shots of milk droplets that look picture perfect even computer generated. That's different things. Here they use a word true macro lens. What is true macro lenses? Does anyone have any idea what is true macro lenses? I know everyone know that the macro lens.
Sir, specially designed micro lenses are the true micro lenses, like
No,
98 micro.
most of them, the macro lens that is designed, that is for the macro lenses. Every macro lens is macro lens. So the reason is why its name is true. You guys have heard about the reciprocal ratios. कि macro lens का या हमारे lens का reciprocal ratio होता है. For example, if we are on 5 feet or 6 feet person, जो feet के 6 feet चला जाता है sensor पे नहीं ना? It appears smaller, right? Bit smaller. That's a reciprocal ratio. So micro lens means whatever size of your object is. Suppose for an example, if your subject is 10 mm, right? Now the same 10 mm is captured and produced on your sensor, right? 10 mm will be remain 10 mm. That is true micro lens. Your ratio, your magnification ratio, that is 1:1. It means any lenses, any macro lenses on which they mention that 1:1 magnification ratio is 1:1. It means it's a true macro lens. Maybe in objective questions can come in technical terms. What is true macro lenses or true macro lenses magnification is? So maybe it's a 1:1, 1:2, 1:3, 1:4. So true macro lens is 1:1. But if there is no true macro lens, only use the macro lens. Magnification is could be 1:1, 1:2, 1:3. It means 1:2 means any object that is 10 mm, now it will be produced on sensor is 5 mm. Right? No? Half of it. So basically that's the magnification ratio. So whenever the word comes the true macro lens, it means they are talking about 1:1 ratio. Whatever size of your object, the same things will be produced on your sensor. Camera setting, you should turn the camera into manual mode. You need a clear final image. So keep ISO low around 200 to 400 maximum because you don't want your image look grainy at the end. To freeze your motion, keep your camera at high shutter speed. That means use 1/640, 1/1000 of a second exposure. If you are using bright light, use an aperture of 5.6, 5.8. If you are having trouble getting your exposure right, adjust your ISO first before going to the other setting. Here, what you can say in terms of camera setting, you can just put one situations over here. कि कोई situation डाल दो कि either you are using it in daylight or natural light or you are shooting in the studio conditions. Now you can write those points also. कि studio में shoot कर रहे हो या आप daylight में जो artificial light नहीं है, जो natural light, you are shooting in that natural light. So here you can explain it in that way. Okay, camera timer or remote shutter. In addition to use faster shutter speed, you can achieve sharper image by delaying the shutter automatically after a few seconds with a built-in camera timer or manually with the remote shutter to minimize internal vibration to minimize. हाँ बेसिकली क्या होगा कि जब आप स्लो भी करते हो स्लो शटर भी शूट करते हो फास्ट भी करते हो इफ यू आर यूजिंग दैट द इन टाइम कैमरा होता है ना ऑटोमेटिकली इट विल बी कैप्चर्ड or either you can use remote so you don't need to press that the shutter release button so that can create certain kind of shake or something. So for that purpose you can use remote or you can use that the self timing mode, right? But in yeah, to minimize internal vibration. No, LMS glue, huh? Most of the time, agar this kind of products, it's not the genuine products. You have to create illusion, right? Those are not the real product. Once you are shooting a product photography or you are doing the food photography, these things are not real. It's LMR glue. जो दूध में दे, because have you seen that kind of dense, that kind of thickness in any milk, चाहे वो full cream हो or any kind of milk is there, right? तो उसमें क्या होगा basically आपका, to create that thickness or real textures, there's no real milk at all. So क्या है, when milk is generally white, it's sometimes not white enough. When in a glass, it usually looks nice and white. When we do milk splashes, however, milk may appear less creamy than desired. The background light can show through the slightly thinner layer of milk, making the shot look less than perfect. Limbur's glue is all-purpose white glue that can be used for many kinds of projects. Being glue, it's very thick. When mixed with the liquid, it greatly increases the liquid's velocity. Sorry, velocity. It also has a clear white color. For those two properties, it is often used in milk photography, whether it is just a glass of milk, beautiful milk splash, or droplet of milk flying around cookies. Right. The reason is any kind of, the what you can say, like liquid, any kind of liquid need a backlight to show the texture of it, either the like you can say the milk, water, any kind of the droplets or something. कुछ भी ऐसे प्रोडक्ट्स हैं, अगर उसमें बैकलाइट होंगे तो वो ज्यादा टेक्सचर उसका दिखाई देता है, राइट? एनी काइंड ऑफ लिक्विड प्रोडक्ट। सो जब रियल मिल्क में आप बैकलाइट देते हो तो और भी ज्यादा थिन और पतला दिखाई देता है। सो दैट्स द रीजन द ग्लू ग्लू की जो क्रीमीनेस है, राइट, सो और थिकनेस है, और there's a backlight, so actually वो properly दिखाई देता है। So that's the reason most of the time in milk shoot or milk pouring shoots, most of the time in the studios, people are using LMS glue, है ना? Either वो high speed shoot हो, the video हो, either it's a stills हो, any kind of shoot they are using. So it's a very important item that you will need when doing a splash photography. There will be spills and you might even get a bit wet. So we'll definitely need a few absorbent paper towels to clean the mess around the area and to wipe off your glass or balls container for much cleaner shots, visually and literally. The reason is you will not get perfect shot at once, right? So you must have to hit and trial for every times, maybe 5 or 7 or 6 or 10 shots because there's a splash. So area क्या होगा, milk चारों तरफ का splash होगा. So that's the reason you can use paper towel, newspaper or something else that can absorb those things, and again you can make it clear. The reason why I use these things, अब पूछोगे अरे इसकी ये लिखने की क्या जरूरत है? But the things is that, as I told you, they ask you because they wanted to know that have you shooted these things or not, or do you have that kind of experience or not, or do you have that kind of presence of mind or not? If you are shooting any liquid product, right, at that time, that point of time, do you have those kind of equipments or not, right? कि अगर splash हो रहा है तो for that what you have, अगर फायर का कोई शॉट ले तो what you have, कुछ भी फायर वाले शॉट ले रहे हो तो कुछ उसके लिए कुछ आपने पहले से प्रिपेयर करके रखा है, नहीं रखा है? सो फॉर दिस काइंड ऑफ थिंग्स, स्प्लैश हो रहा है तो चारों तरफ जाएगा, तो हाउ यू प्रिपेयर्ड योरसेल्फ फॉर दैट पर्टिकुलर पर्पस, तो point by point you can explain it. So they exactly they want it because it's totally, as I told you, it's totally practical things. But why they asked, this is earlier, I think ये questions है 2017 or 18 का. The reason they wanted to know that कि do you know this approach or not? This one, the Elmer's glue. See the example. See the thickness of it. This is only for the examples that you can. So now you can see, I have already explained 6 point of it. So you can explain only 5 points and need the 6 point. High quality cameras, maybe मत लिखो इसके बारे में because कोई जरूरत नहीं है. But micro lens you can mention. Camera settings, why you are mentioning over here camera setting as previous one. In camera settings or exposure settings, we focused on aperture because we need that kind of depth of field. But in this camera settings, what you need for every particular shoot, every time, in terms of exposure, what you can say, the priority of your exposure, like for the shutter or aperture, what is your priority, right? That's why in settings, have you seen that the shutter priority mode, aperture priority mode, आपके लिए priority क्या है? In these things, in camera settings, what is your priority? Your priority is shutter speed. You have to use faster shutter speed to freeze the motion to show those things. On that one, you have to use higher f numbers to get that kind of depth of field. So whole bottles will be in focus. So every time for every products or every situations, the settings will be different. So it's not only about you just write down the camera settings. I'll written over there. I will use f8. I will use f1/200, and ISO will be lower as much as possible. This is not the way. Why you are choosing faster shutter speed explains those things. To freeze the motions, we need it. So, 2 questions that we have discussed. Anyone have any questions or doubt you can ask? Otherwise, I will explain another one. जी किसी के पास नहीं है? चलिए. Okay. ये अच्छा क्वेश्चन है. We can discuss it. What are 5 important points you will take care while shooting a source lighting and your source is candle? Now the source could be anything. Same questions came, I think, in 2016. That was sources your television. If someone is watching television, kind of question is there, and how the light of television or TV is falling on your character, right? ये भी आया हुआ था. So source could be anything, but what will be your approach once there is a source lighting? Source means the light that is visible within a scene, right? That's a source lighting, right? कि जो लाइट आपको दिखाई दे रही है, सपोज करो फॉर एन एग्जांपल, एंड यू आर क्रिएटिंग द इल्यूजन दैट पर्टिकुलर लाइट इज कमिंग फ्रॉम योर that particular source. For an example, कई बार
So
आपने
it
देखा
can
होगा
be
फोन.
called as practical lighting. Practical
Yeah,
lighting. Practical lighting.
any light that is visible in your scene, that is practical lights.
Okay, the source light means practical light.
Practical lights. Now, if you are doing the source lighting, it means that light is coming from that particular source. Suppose for an example, that light is coming from the, अभी क्या हो रहा है, मोबाइल फोन से लाइट आ रही है, right? From the screen is it coming, right? फेस पे लाइट आ रही है अभी? No.
Yes.
No. नहीं आ रही है. The reason there is a light, but the thing is that intensity of another light is higher than the light of my phone. So have you ever seen the street lights in early in the morning? How it's look? Do you feel that the intensity of that light is lower that time? No. Intensity is remain same, but why it's look dim? The reason is
Sunlight.
sunlight have the more intensity. Suppose for an example, मैं भी बताता हूँ. For an example, just या तुम लोग भी देख लो. Now you can feel it. ये मेरे फेस पे लाइट आ रही है, right? आ रही है ना?
Yes.
You can feel that, right? But now, see, there's no impact of it, right? So when there's a no light, this one is become source for me, right? So here, they ask he will take care of shooting a source lighting and your source is candle. आपका source क्या candle है? So for the lighting, that we have discussed four things, right? क्या था? What was those points? That 5 points.
Quality,
Quality, yeah.
color,
Color, right?
intensity,
Intensity,
Texture.
direction.
or
Direction.
डायरेक्शन. चलिए, सो लेट्स डिसाइड बिकॉज अभी क्वेश्चन में क्या पूछा है कि लाइटिंग के बारे में पूछ रहा है, तो यू कैन एक्सप्लेन अबाउट what is the quality, what is the direction, what is the color, right? So whatever the point that I have already explained it to you, you can explain once you are seeing this kind of things, this kind of candles. Have you observed it? Candle की light कैसी आती है? Do you feel the light of candle is in terms of quality, is it hard or soft?
Hard.
Hard. The reason is
It's very
your
high
source
in
is
contrast.
smaller. Your source is smaller,
Yes, yes, yes.
right? Your source is smaller, so it will be in terms of quality clear हो गया. So whatever we have already discussed, now you can give answer of these questions, right? For the direction, what is written over here? Source lighting are light sources that are visible in the shot. They can have a variety of purpose like adding depth or just justify that the light in the scene is coming from the light source. Since practical lighting isn't going to give you the full range of illumination that any working film light would give you, you want to work within your limitation, work with shadows, don't try to light the entire scene, and don't turn on the room's main light. You want to remove as much as light as possible instead of adding to it. There is only going to be so much leeway with a practical light. Use light to illuminate the scene from same direction and same height, so it will look natural. The reason is from the direction from where light is coming, that is direction. Suppose the light is coming from the top of you. Which kind of shadow will be there? It will be longer, right? Sometimes below of the character, क्या होगा? Shadows ऊपर जाएंगे nose के, right? On the eye level, slight आ रही है, straight हो जाएगा, right? So once you have to see to it कि what's the direction of your source light. This candle is above the character, is it below the character on the eye level? According to that, you have to choose because you know that the candle don't have that much illumination you can shoot at it. You have to use artificial light to create that illusion, right? You have to use artificial light. So, but for the artificial, it should not look like anyone can recognize from where this is coming, right? So this is not coming from the candle. This is coming from another source. If you change the direction, suppose you put your candle over here on eye level and the light is coming from the top of it. So there is a shadow is coming from here, right? The longer shadows, anyone can recognize here, itna lamba shadows to jab light upar se aati tab hota hai. But right now, candle is over here, nearby the character, on the eye level, nearby the eye level, or lower than the character, but the shadow is the opposite of it. So anyone can recognize, maybe you can create that illusion in terms of intensity, maybe in terms of quality, maybe in terms of color. But if you choose wrong direction, anyone can recognize they are using some another light. So to create that illusion, direction is most important part for any kind of source lighting. Direction is important. Rest of the things are also important, but direction is main. You can start it from here because direction is the things from where you started lighting, because you must have to ask where to put this light. पहले light लगाओगे तभी तो पता चलेगा ना, तभी तो on करोगे. So direction, you must have to find the direction where to put the light. After putting the light, giving the direction, now you can switch on the light, and now we can talk about the intensity of it, right? So now here what you can say, if you wanted to, in terms of the aspects of light, you can explain those things also. Or there are many points in which you can explain. Ab kya hoga? For the second things, you can explain now after fixing the light direction. Now you can talk about the intensity. That there is a less intensity in terms of colors. Then you can talk about the like quality. Key in terms of quality is a hard light. So in terms of contrast, there is a high contrast when you are using candle light, right? Colors, it will be warm. So these are the points that you can explain. Candle would be exposed correctly and the actor set would be complete darkness, then the actor set are fine, but the lamp would blow out. That causes a lot of unpleasant lens flare if the camera is even able to get the desired exposure for all that 500 away. अब ये कह रहा है कि whatever source is within your frame, right? That source is visible. Have you ever tried to shoot? Have you seen on my corners that the tube light is visible on that photograph, top of that photos? Have you seen that? Is it over bright?
Yes.
It's look over bright, right? So it's not eye pleasant basically. Have you seen that the practical light in the films? It well balanced, bit overexposed, not too much, right? So it's look like that light is coming through that source and not too much dim, not even too much dim. कि ये लगेगा अरे how is it possible कि that could be become source? So you must have to set your exposure according to your practical light. Either what you can use, you have to increase your exposure, either you have to decrease the exposure. Suppose you are using some tungsten bulb over there. So for that reason, we put our lights on dimmer. So what exposure you need, according to that, we set our bulb on dimmer and we use those things. So for the candle also, you have to, because candle में ऐसा कुछ dimmer नहीं लगा हुआ है. So for the candles, what you can use, you have to set your exposure according to the light. So it should look like that light is coming from this candle. अगर कैंडल बहुत छोटा सा दिखेगा, that the as usual if you guys have ever shoot with the candles, क्या दिखता है, बहुत कम दिखता है कैंडल, बिकॉज डायनामिक रेंज आपकी आंख को तो बहुत ज्यादा दिखता है, बट फॉर द कैमरा दैट इज नॉट टू मच, इट्स टू लेस. सो व्हाट यू कैन डू, यूज 2.8 1.4, बट इवन देन ये स्टार्टेड ब्लोइंग आउट और बहुत सारे लेंस फ्लेयर आने लगते हैं. So you must have to fix at what aperture you wanted to shoot or what should be settings for it, and in within that it's look like, or either you have to set it that light is coming through this source, so that source should not look overexposed, not underexposed. You have to create that illusion that light is coming from this particular source. So basically that's a one-liner. समझने के लिए, that is one-liner. That is whatever the practical light you are doing, right? जो भी practical light कर रहे हो, you must have to set your exposure according to that. लो आगे आगे तो आगे. Right. Finding that perfect brightness for your practical can be delicate balancing act. So always put practical on dimmer to make it easy to find that right level. Besides, practical often look best with a warmer color temperature, and if they are tungsten, you can get that by dimming them down, adding to the cozy feel. चलिए यहाँ एक चीज आ गया है कि if you put your light on dimmer, right? So now you can shoot on your desired aperture that you want. Suppose I have to shoot on 2.8 or I have to create a depth, I have to shoot on 4. So according to that, you can set your dimmer. You want less light, you want, so you don't need to every time, you don't need to change the bulb, because 20-watt bulb, 40-watt bulb, 60-watt bulb take too much time to, set your perfect. It maybe sometime it won't. So there is also another trick. We use some wax on bulb or something else, use diffuser paper on it. So that's a time taking. So if your bulb is on dimmer, at once you can set your exposure by once. But one more thing, once you are using in a dimmer, right? So that light have a certain color. Once you are dimming the intensity of any light, color temperature also affected. Color temperature not remain same. You guys know what is color temperature is? The first is that we have discussed color temperature. In white balance is a tungsten daylight. So whatever the light that is coming, that every particular light have, their own colors, and that colors have the certain temperature, not in terms of like intensity or that.
Your dimmer means you are referring to the diffuser.
Dimmer?
Dimmer means that you are referring to diffuser.
Dimmer means no, dimmer means dimming the capacity of light, dimming the intensity of light, just like fan. In fan, what we have regulator, right? So you are just dimming the speed of that fan.
Okay,
So
okay.
just like that, on that, for every bulb or whatever bulb we are using dimmer. So you can, decrease the intensity of light. Right now, if you guys have ever used, the LED lights or that kind of things, that light have certain meters, 0 to 100. So you can put it on 50, 60, 100 is the max, 0 is the 0, right? Here is the minimum one. Have you seen that one? So dimmer is basically is just the reducing the intensity of any bulb light or anything else. जो भी light है उसको dim करने के लिए we are using it. So basically you have just like the regulators, you have the things. So whatever the desired, the exposure that you want, according to that you can set your bulb. But the thing is that if your bulb is not set on dimmer, you must have to, set your exposure according to the bulb. So its choice is yours, what you want. You want to depend on your, whatever the source that you have or whatever desired aperture that you wanted to shoot. So basically the choice is yours, but how you explain it, if it will be dimmer, really it will be helpful, it will save your time. So that's the reason we are putting it on dimmer. And as earlier I told you, if you are dimming any lights in terms of intensity, also the color temperature will be decreased. Somehow if you are using 3200 bulbs, not exactly I can say that what it will be, but suppose 3200 tungsten bulb that you are using, and that is 100 watt. Now you are reducing it the 30% or 40%, whatever, it won't remain same. Color temperature is 3200. It could be 28, it could be 26, 25. Exactly, I can't calculate. But the thing is that if you are reducing it, it will be decreased. That's the truth. अगर कलर टेम्परेचर डिक्रीज कर रहे हो तो वो भी डिक्रीज आपका, सॉरी, आप अगर इंटेंसिटी डिक्रीज कर रहे हो तो कलर टेम्परेचर भी डिक्रीज हो जाएगा. दैट्स द थिंग्स. सो एनी डाउट? Gautam, you asked that question?
Hello.
What's that?
Yeah. Now any doubt? Is it clear now?
Am I audible?
Yeah.
Hello.
हाँ, बताइए.
Yeah, I just had a doubt. Like while shooting product photography, we normally have two options. Like we do the continuous light setting, and another is trigger flash lighting.
Yeah.
So, on what aspect should I be concentrating on while writing this exam? Like because it's a cinematography, should I be only focusing on keeping the continuous lights, or
Yeah, always try if they are not ask specific about the trigger lights and the light water, the flash light, right? Just ask about the continuous light. Just read whatever. Just write about the continuous light.
okay.
Right.
And
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Ask.
Yeah, and while writing, should I be able to also write what gadgets I'll be using, or
No. Don't need it. Don't need it. Never go with that.
okay.
Don't write the gadgets. Don't write the brand name. Nothing else. Yeah, I'm using Nikon 5200 or this that. If maybe they especially they ask what model that you are using or what model, why you are choosing this model, if that kind of question is there, then you can answer like that. Right? But if they don't, there's a simple, there is some questions, they didn't ask about your gears. Already they have, in that question, they have mentioned the kit lenses.
Yeah.
As usually we know the kit lenses 1855, any kit lenses are, or 2470 or 24105, right? So जो consumer oriented cameras हैं वो basics लेके, for that reason you can explain those things. अगर particularly पूछ रहा है किसी ब्रांड के बारे में, किसी प्रॉपर सेटिंग्स के बारे में, प्रॉपर लेंसिंग के बारे में, then you can explain it. But most of the time it will be the continuous light. One more thing, you can make it in your own way, right? Suppose here I am used at the candle light because already you have to use the light basically, no?
Yeah.
To create. So here is not the continuous, but in the product photography, even you can use you will use the sunlight. There's a question that in which I will explain it to you. You will the sunlight, that light is coming from your windows, that light is become backlight for that particular product. From here, you're just giving the fill from some white surface, some thermocol or something else. So you can make it your own. It's not necessary that whatever I discussed over here, I'm just giving you the ideas. How can you explain? Pointer could be different. Whether I use the continuous light, you can use continuous light, but it should be natural light. So आप उसमें use कर सकते हो.
Okay.
So it's totally up because people are shooting in natural light. Now, many products that we are shooting in natural light. करते हैं ना shoot हम. ऐसा तो नहीं करते हैं. This is the practical things that we are using. बहुत सारे लोग नेचुरल लाइट में शूट करते, बाउंस करके विंडो से लाइट आ रही है, बैक लाइट बना के छोटा सा कर्टन आगे डाला, कुछ हल्का सा, so that can diffuse the light. So we are using that things. So it's very practical things that you need to explain, that you have already observed, that you have already done it before. So according to that, you can just explain it. It's not fixed that कि हाँ अगर continuous light के बारे में पूछेगा, flash light के बारे में पूछेगा, at that point of time you can explain. तब कर सकते हो आप.
Yeah.
ठीक है. Composition of candles. There are two main ways to deal with candles in a composition sense. You can include them in the shot or leave them out unseen out of frame. Both alternatives can create lovely shots. So experiment with both. If you are including candle in the frame, remember that they will impact the settings your camera wants to, but that they will also create point of interest in your shot that can potentially draw the eyes of those viewing your image, competing with your main subject. As a result, you will want to position your subject in a prominent position and consider placing candles in a way that doesn't distract too much. If candles are in the frame, you will also want to make sure they are nice ones. Smaller details matter in portrait. An ugly candle might prove to be real distraction. अभी क्वेश्चन क्या कर रहा है आपका? One second. Guys, you must have to watch these films. Film name is Trikal. For the candle lighting and the source lighting, you guys must have to watch this films for the lighting perspective. फिल्म भी अच्छी है, आपको फिल्म देखनी चाहिए. यहाँ पर क्या वो किया है? Composition of candles. Now you can see that in this frame, if that candle will be in foreground, right? It will be distracted or not. The point of interest. क्या होता foreground में? It appear bigger, right? And maybe the center of interest somehow will draw on that candle because it's in foreground, appear bigger, the flare appear bigger, candle appear bigger. So the placement or composition of candle is more important. That's why either you can put it inside the frame, that will create certain depth because source दिखेगा. अभी अगर ये candle नहीं रहता तो इतना depth दिखता नहीं. It's look real that the light is coming from there. Maybe there is a more candle, right? So for that reason कि composition क्या होगा इसका? Candle within a frame रहेगा, बाहर रहेगा. Within a frame रहेगा, that is huddle. That already I told you. You must have to set your exposure according to that, according to the candle. Now in this one, it's look like that the light is coming through that candle. But suppose करो ये बहुत burn कर रहा होता और either it's too late, बहुत कम light होती, right? जैसा कि दिखता है. Suppose अभी आप example check कर सकते हो guys, आप the cameras, natural setting जो भी जो normal settings है आपके कैमरे के, when you can open it wider than 3.54 जो भी है आपका, you won't get that candle properly exposed, right? But in this one, is it properly exposed or not? So that's what I'm talking about, is you must have to set your exposure according to that, and you must have to place it on the right way. That center of interest should be your character, your models, or whatever the scene is, not should be the candle. No. It's very practical things that we are discussing basically. It's not, it's not very theoretical things, and that is how you will approach for the particular things. That's you have to discuss. That you need to discuss. कोई technical ऐसा aspect ही नहीं है जो इसमें बोलना है. अब there's another point called the extra candles. Obviously, once you start shooting, candle जलेगा, right? और सारे takes नहीं होंगे. So to give that kind of continuity or maintain that kind of continuity, you must have more candles, right? कि वो चला जाएगा तो you can use another one. वो खत्म हो जाए तो you can use another one. So that's the smaller points that you can recognize. It's not about, it's not totally theoretical things. जो pointers note करने हैं. Try to observe those things. Ask yourself what will be your approach for that particular product, right? What will be your approach for that particular product? How you approach for this? What will be your framing? What will be your setting? What will be your approach for in terms of lighting? And the thing is how you wanted that image to be, right? वो कैसा दिखेगा? So what should be the angle? है ना? तो ये सारे कोई भी product पकड़ लो, you guys. This is your task for the day after tomorrow's. Took any product, right? And explain it. How will your approach for that particular product? Took any, or you must have to shoot it. Don't get it with that कि मेरे पास camera नहीं है. Through the phone. Through the phone. So just see what should be your, why you approach it on the high level or top level and the eye level. You must have to explain why you are using this kind of light. I'm not telling you go to the studio and shoot it. Whatever the natural light that is coming inside your room, you can use it, or go outside and you can shoot it, your product. Daylight hota hai, achhi light hoti, you can shoot it. So how you gonna use what will be your approach and why you are approaching this one, you guys can explain it. So take any product is totally up to you, whatever product that you're gonna choose, and explain it, right? For the day after tomorrow, I think Tuesday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday classes. So in Wednesday, we will discuss that things. Okay, now the कितने हो गए? 3 questions that we have discussed. The fourth one is, what are 4 important points you will take care while shooting a theater performance of a play? Theater lighting is totally different, basically. So you must have to observe, or at least you must have to go once and see to it how it works, right? If anyone of you have watched, just see how lighting it is, or lighting कैसे होती है यहाँ पर, right? So because maybe they can ask, I think किसी year आया हुआ था ये question, और maybe किसी और चीज से related आ सकता है, what is the lighting situation of particular things. So what's theater photography involves providing images that are concise and maintain the integrity of the light and the vision of the director. The light has been created to provide drama. It can be harsh and unflattering with dark eye curves and severe shadows. Changing that through that thought would be an effort to their work. The following is how you can preserve their dramatic vision. But a simple app, because theater is more about how they play with lights and colors, on the colors that is coming by the lights, through the lights, how they created drama through the lights, very hard light, harsh light, the color is keep changing, right? So what will your approach? Well, it should be look real and realistic, whatever the director wanted, because वो color के through भी दिखाना चाहते हैं, right? और उस emotions को, उस particular scene को. So how it should be real, जो organic है, organic ही दिखे. So what will be your approach? Because you can't say that there's a mix up of light, so that's the reason it comes like this, right? You must have to go with that things. कि जो approach है, that should be there. जो डायरेक्टर दिखाना चाहता है इन टर्म्स ऑफ कलर्स वही दिखे, जितनी ब्राइटनेस दिखाना चाहता है, जितने डार्कनेस दिखाना चाहता है, इट विल रिमेन सेम, राइट? सो दैट्स द थिंग्स. The first things and first point is know the play. The best way to photograph a performance is to understand what it's all about. If you can ask to attend the rehearsal, you can observe how people move on stage, which side of the stage they are on most of the time, what they do and when. So basically, know the play means अगर आप rehearsal में जाते हो, rehearse करते हो, at that point, rehearse देखते हो basically, at that point of time, you got to know that which area is more occupied or which area the more of the artists have doing their actions, right? Which kind of light is coming over there, so you know exactly where you should stand, right? Because in theater you can't move here and there because event नहीं चल रहा है कोई कि आप यहाँ भी जा रहे हैं लोगों के आगे से event में भी नहीं करना चाहिए, but people are doing those things. But in theater, right? वो पिन ड्रॉप साइलेंस होता है, चीजें लोग ऑब्जर्व करते हैं, देखने जाते हैं, you can't disturb them. So once you are in, rehearsal, you got to know that what is the right place for you. Because if suddenly you went inside in any theater and started shooting the play, because you don't know exactly what is happening around there, because there's a full stage over there, they have to cover it. तो कौन कहाँ जा रहा है नहीं जा रहा है तो आपको पता नहीं चलेगा. So it's best way to know the play before. सो उसमें आप रिहर्स में जा सकते हैं, तो एक्टर की ब्लॉकिंग समझ सकते हैं, सारी चीजें समझ सकते हैं, मोस्ट ऑफ द टाइम कहाँ पर एक्टर होगा या व्हाट्स द एक्शन इज गोइंग ऑन. So everything got to know that. So according to that, you can find your best place whether to shoot. You can't move too much. Give me 1 minute, guys. I'm just going. Give me 1 minute. Now the camera setting with there is few specific point that you can mention or you can explain, that is when you are shooting raw means what is the totally raw is very uncompressed data. So in terms of white balance in post, you can fix these things in terms of colors and everything. So raw is better idea for the theater play. Maybe it will take more space, but the reason is he will get in terms of colors is the perfect color. So in post, you can fix it. Lens stabilization on this will prevent you from introducing camera shake in your images. If you're capturing it, it will be handheld. So at that point of time, if you're using image stabilization, so shake se because in theater have most of the time is a less light, right? And you have to use the faster shutter speed. So also there is a less light, but कई बार क्या करना पड़ता है, आप शटर लाइट नहीं रहती है, समटाइम्स बहुत कम लाइट हो जाती है, एट दैट पॉइंट ऑफ टाइम यू हैव टू यूज शटर लाइट 1/50 or something else, at that point of time, you must use your image stabilization mode. Back focus button for autofocus. By decoupling the F function from the shutter, you can focus only when I need, and save time when firing the shutter. So क्या होता है when you are relaying the halfway of the shutter down, वो आपका back focus पहले से ही हुआ रहता है. You only need to release the shutter. So that focus autofocus function, every camera have the different, right? अब इतने सारे autofocus functions आ गए हैं कि whatever function that you are using, you think that is best for it, you can explain that point, right? Because क्या होता है कि अगर back focus करके नहीं रखा तो every time again once you press the shutter halfway down, every time again your lens started hunting for the proper focus. For the back focus, they measure the certain distance already लिया हुआ रहता है. So you only need to release the shutter. Continuous shooting, if there is a great deal of movement, I like a photograph using continuous shooting made to maximize my chances to get a good image. But the thing is that you can use the continuous images, but the thing is that you can't use it too much and every time, because at anyhow, if there is a silent shutter, फिर भी shutter थोड़ा बहुत sound करता है. If there is a silent shutter, you can use it. But if you don't have the silent shutter, people get irritating if you keep releasing continuous mode, right? तो साउंड से लोग इरिटेट हो जाएंगे. तो you must have to mention, if you are using continuous shooting, you must have to use that the silent shutter features. Because if there is a silent shutter feature, there is a less sound or there is a no sound. So लोग irritate नहीं होंगे and you will capture the great deal of movement जो भी चल रहा है. So you capture those things. But if you are not using those things, you are not mention that कि तुम खींचते रहोगे और लोग disturb होते रहेंगे. Because you must have to care about those person or audience who came for watching this show. Metering, use a spot or center weighted metering if you are not using a wide angle lens to get an entire scene in. Metering mode that we didn't discuss yet. So, okay. Tomorrow I'll discuss the metering mode. So you got to know that what is metering mode is, right? It is just the judging the exposure. I think previously we discussed it. In your phone camera, guys, have you seen that there's a meter, is the right or left? So your camera is basically telling you are overexposure, you are underexposure. According to that, in your camera also there is a spot metering. So in particular areas, your camera can judge the exposure. Suppose for the portrait, वो जो राउंड सा सर्कल बना होगा इन योर कैमरा, आप देखते इन योर व्यू फाइंडर ऑन लाइव व्यू monitor, you can see that certain areas, your camera can also give the information about that particular areas. In this particular area, there is a more light or there is a less light. Not about the whole scene, not about the proper scene. And center weighted also will give you the information about the centered area. So it's up to you how you want it. If you are shooting in the close shots, so the person or the portrait that you are shooting, that person is in main things. But if you are shooting wide, then you must have to use another metering mode that's called the evaluative metering mode, in which whatever coming within the frame, your camera will set your exposure. Your camera will tell you information. Your camera will give you information about whole entire area, that it is over or is it under. Manual mode, try to shoot in manual mode if the light is constant, that is classical concern. Otherwise, try to shoot in as a stop and keep the shutter speed at 1/100 at the fastest to place the action on the stage. हाँ, ये क्या कर रहा है, आपको shutter priority mode यूज करना चाहिए अगर लाइट बराबर चेंज हो रही है. तो अगर कोई क्लासिकल ऐसा सो इन विच द लाइट इज फिक्स्ड, ये बहुत ज्यादा चेंजेस नहीं हो रहे, इन विच वन यू नीड टू use that mode. But if it keeps changing, so for that reason, you don't have that much of time every time to set your aperture, set your shutter. Light बढ़ गई तो aperture बढ़ा रहे, light घट गई तो aperture कम कर रहे. So it takes time, right? So that's the reason use shutter priority mode, because here your priority is shutter to freeze the motion, not the exposure. Because light तो आएगी, अपने आप aperture कर लेगा कुछ ना कुछ. So you need that compensation. It should not happen with the shutter speed because you don't want the blurry image. So that's the reason you wanted to shoot on shutter speed that is 1/100, not less than that. So once you are shooting on 1/100, if automatically if there is a more light, aperture बढ़ा देगा. If there is a less light, aperture हम कर देगा, open ज़्यादा कर देगा. So this thing that you must have to mention. White balance already, if you have already explained कि आप वो use कर रहे हो तो है ना. और एक और तरीका है to do the white balance. Whatever the main character have the light that is falling on the face, set your white balance according to that. जो भी light आपके character पे आ रही है ना, background में बहुत सी light है, don't go with that. जो भी light आपके character पे आ रही है, set your exposure according to that. ऑलरेडी आई हैव मेंशन यू कि आप बहुत ज्यादा परेशान नहीं कर सकते, रिस्पेक्ट अदर्स. आप इधर उधर नहीं मूव कर सकते बिकॉज थिएटर प्ले, राइट. सो दैट्स द रीजन, डोंट डिस्टर्ब अदर्स. तो इसलिए मैंने अभी आपको मेंशन किया था कि एट द टाइम ऑफ रिहर्स यू फाइंड द प्लेस की क्या हो सकता है, कौन सा एंगल ज्यादा बेहतर है. सो वंस यू आर इनसाइड द थिएटर यू गॉट टू नो दैट वेयर टू सिट, वेयर टू स्टैंड. ज्यादा ट्रैवल नहीं कर सकते आप. एक और ऑप्शन है, इफ यू वांट टू मूव मोर फ्रीली कंसीडर शूटिंग फ्रॉम द बैक विद अ लॉन्ग टेलीफोटो लेंसेज. जहां पर क्या हो सकता है, आप आगे से लोगों को डिस्टर्ब नहीं कर रहे हो तो बिहाइंड आप थोड़ा बहुत मूव भी कर रहे हो, इट वॉन्ट अफेक्ट टू मच. बट अगर इफ यू आर इन फ्रंट, कोई वाइड शॉट यूज कर रहे हो, वाइड लेंसेज यूज कर, एट दैट पॉइंट ऑफ टाइम इट्स रियली डिफिकल्ट कि आप बहुत ज्यादा मूवमेंट ले सकते हैं. सो इट्स टोटली सब्जेक्टिव हाउ यू वांटेड टू शूट. इट्स टोटली सब्जेक्टिव. ऐसा कोई थ्योरी नहीं है कि ए बराबर सॉरी ए प्लस बी का होल स्क्वायर आएगा, ऐसा कुछ नहीं है ना. जो भी आपको लग रहा है इट्स टोटली सब्जेक्टिव, यू कैन एक्सप्लेन अकॉर्डिंग टू दैट. अगर आप थिएटर शूट करोगे तो व्हाट विल बी योर अप्रोच. सो राइट ऑन द अप्रोच, बट दैट शुड बी यू नो द प्रॉपर वे, इन प्रॉपर वे. And there is a logic why you are using it. Here I mentioned you ki I'll go with the shutter priority mode. There is certain reason. I will shoot with the telephoto lens. There is a certain reason. I will choose raw. There is a certain reason why there is a raw. So once you are explaining anything, there must be reason. Or either ask yourself why you write it down, why this particular things that you wanted over here, और तुमने क्यों लिखा है, जैसे क्यों you got an answer of why, just write down that why. That's the reason I choose this settings, that's the reason I choose this particular lenses, that's the reason I choose this particular white balance. So everything सिर्फ लिखने से नहीं होगा, you must have to explain those points too. Another PPT is visible. Is it visible?
Yes, sir.
Or you shoot during the golden hour? Is this a question?
No, sir. It is showing Trigal.
Oh, no, no, no. One second. One second. Wait one second. Okay, now one more question. And there's, I think, 5 questions that I wanted to explain. On every situation, you guys can write about this 4 or 5 questions in your turn, and whatever point, or either in pointers, because that's the reason I explain these things in points. So take any situations and explain those things and send it to me. How do you shoot during the golden hour? Golden hour is what? Anyone have any idea what is golden hour?
Sunrise and sunset.
Okay. So it's the after sunrise and again right before sunset. So basically difference अगर sunrise और sunset का करना हो तो क्या होगा? One line difference अगर करना हो तो. चलो in terms of composition छोड़ देते हैं theory technical चीजें, right? If those things. Simple pointer that everyone can notice it, right? As in
Right.
photographer, someone asks you what is the differences. अब technical छोड़ दो, color छोड़ दो. The answer is that the main difference is sunrise, you get more time at the time of sunset for the composition. Is it right? Within 5 or 6 minutes, things have been changed. Either you're using f2.8, now it's become f8 or f11. चला जाता है. But at the sunset, you have more time, right? होता है ना? That's the first difference. Another difference is, it's very practical difference that is, at the time of sunrise, when you are shooting, you will get less number of people, less number of subject. But at the time of sunset, you will get more numbers of like your subject. ये तो real है ना? यहाँ कोई technical चीजें और कुछ हैं? Is it real or not? Is it real experience or not that you can feel? Or maybe you have already encountered with this kind of problems. Is it right or not? क्या आपका की क्वेश्चन क्या था? How to shoot. So the first thing your approach is how you don't miss those things. To avoid rushing, plan on arrival at least an hour before sunset. Depending on the weather condition, if the weather is cloudy, I'll myself even more time. Overcast day don't provide quite the same magic, but the type of light is still soft and directional. Basically, ये क्या पहले पहुंच के रखोगे तो you get the things done. You just be settings saying you just see the things, how the things just keep changing. So you can set your exposure according to that. You can set your white balance according to that. Now, just read it once now. portrait character है. So it should not front light. Now the backlight will give you more glow. Just say for this example, see this images. उसमें क्या हो रहा है? Is it become backlight or front light? That backlight give you a certain kind of, the depth. What, Rohit?
सर इसमें बैकलाइट तो है बट मतलब like, अगर मैं पोर्ट्रेट ले रहा हूँ तो इसमें से फ्रंट से मेरे को कोई लाइट ऐड करनी पड़ेगी वरना तो मतलब वो सिलवेट सा आएगा.
You can add front light, you can add bounce light, you can change your exposure. If the sun is not in your frame, you can set your exposure right according to that. No? If your sun is not, if you wanted that kind of color only, then you can set it. You can use, we are using certain kind of flash also. But if that light could be frontal, what happened? Your image will become what? Totally flat. As in 3-point lighting, we have already discussed, to give the certain dimension depth to the face, we have to create contrast, we have to give key and fill, we have to give kicker or backlight, right? अगर ये लाइट फ्रंट से होता तो क्या होता? इमेज इज एपरिंग फ्लैटरिंग और नॉट? इज इट फ्लैटर और नॉट?
हाँ, उसमें कोई मतलब जो उसका मतलब सन का वो है, मतलब क्या बोल सकते हैं,
The
सन का जो
feel will
फील
not
आता है,
create. वो
मतलब
नहीं
गोल्डन
आएगा,
वो
right? So that's
मिस हो
the
जाता है।
reason. That's the reason. You have to use these things very creatively. It's not only about the exposure in terms of cinematography. जब बात करते हैं कि expose करना ही सब कुछ नहीं है. How you use it creatively, that's the things. कि this sunlight पीछे दिख रहा है, so you can see that contrast. Sometimes the lens flare, you can talk about the lens flare too. So since the starting, I'm talking about this point. It's all about how you observe the things, how you experience it. You can use that. My front light use karunga because I don't have any kind of light. People will appear silhouette and at all. So it's totally subjective. It's totally subjective. But there must be logic कि उससे क्या basically निकल के आ रहा है आपका. Shoot in manual mode to make the most of backlighting and to adjust exposure, on in semi-manual mode such as aperture priority with a spot metering. A spot metering tell the camera to expose for wherever the focal point is. Instead of considering the entire scene without a spot metering, you will most likely end up with a dark subject or even a silhouette. Another great way to shoot with golden hour backlight is to use a reflector, bounce some of the light back on the subject, creating a more even exposure. A low-powered flash with a diffuser also does the trick. Golden hour setting very based on the exact light and the subject. For aperture, I shoot with a low aperture on 1.8 to 2.8. I'm shooting a couple or a group. I use a narrower aperture to keep the factor of focus. All the faces are focus. अभी आपका क्वेश्चन का आंसर मिल गया कि if you are shooting, we have to use a spot metering. So according to that, if in a spot metering against the sun है, so a camera will let you know that कि ऐसा वैसा है कि यहाँ पर light कम है on face. So according to that, you can set your exposure. Either you can use reflector, or the third things, you can use any bounce light, or sorry, any flash light to give the proper amount of light that your spot metering is telling you. So you can set according to that. Through the exposure, you can use it. Through the bounce, you can use it. Or through the flash, you can use it. So these are the things. If it will appear darker, you can use it. But the thing is that you can use that light, the sunlight, creatively as in backlight. Use the warm golden hour colors to add positive energy. But simple as warm colors have the certain positive energy. काफी अगर warm color आप use have you seen the films now? Things is positive, energetic. They are using warm colors, right? Cool color have the kind of dullness and the things, right? So how you gonna use it? उसमें क्या कर सकते? Through the white balance, through the things you can change the colors, make it more warm, right? Sure. So there's a two more question that we have to explain, but थोड़ा time लग जाएगा. For that reason, what I'm gonna do, I'll give you one assignment. So tomorrow you need to the last class is on which a rule of third you guys have photographed, right? On rule of third was the topic, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now I'll discuss on the topic that's called the contrast. Contrast means is very simple. The differences between two tones, right? In terms of color, अगर कहोगे. Normally, Contrast कहीं भी हो सकता है. If you started with the nature, right? Nature have the और contrast. अगर nature की बात करोगे तो सबसे ज्यादा contrast है. Day है तो night है, right? Winter है, summer है, right? Fire है, water है. What it is? Life है, death है. क्या है ये? Is it what it is? Is it contrast, right? So when we are talking about in the subject or the topic for the photography is contrast, it means you can create separation, you can create the differences in your photograph, or how you can create those differences. There's a many things through which you can create those things. Okay, your topic will be contrast. So how will you create it? अब बड़ा सिंपल है. इस तरह तुम ब्लैक रख दो, इस तरह व्हाइट रख दो. Is it contrast, right? In terms of color, is it in terms of things? Is it contrast or not? Contrast ही है ना, two different sets, totally contrast. So there is a 4 or 5 things in which you can create contrast. One is line, another is size, third is value, fourth is color, fifth is shape and form. Okay. चलते हैं. डायरेक्शन और मूवमेंट, ये भी है आपका, है ना. अब डायरेक्शन क्या हो सकता है, मूवमेंट क्या हो सकता है, चलिए वन वन बाय वन विल डिस्कस इट. टोनल कॉन्ट्रास्ट पढ़ लीजिए, दिखाई दे रहा है. Total contrast refers to the difference in bright and dark area in a photo. This composition is what makes the subject within the photo appear defined or undefined through the differentiated details due to the contrast of blacks, white and grays. देखते हैं क्या हो रहा है इसमें. इसमें दो different tone है totally. One is very dark and another is very bright. So that creates certain contrast. हो रहा है create ना. So maybe in terms of contrast, you can say कि contrast तो है, it could be high or it could be low. जैसा मैंने day में कहा था कि how you recognize the daytime, because daytime have the less contrast, but there is a contrast. At the night time, there is a more contrast, right? See the high contrast. The low contrast में क्या हो रहा है? See the two images now. In this one, is it high contrast or not? This one. Within the image, there's a too dark and the too bright. So that's the reason there's a high contrast. As a night have the high contrast. Like that in this one, see the low contrast. Because is there that much of separation, or is look like that the that flower is merging in the background, even the green and greenish background it is there, right? That create low contrast. There is a contrast, but there is a low contrast. No, the see this image, which kind of contrast it is? कौन सा contrast है? Anyone have any idea? Here's the contrast of size on the smaller piece of. अब वहां पर क्या पूरा माउंटेन जैसा कुछ है, right? So in terms of size, one is bigger, one is smaller. Is it contrast or not? Is it? अभी क्या हो रहा है फॉर्म में देख लीजिए, द डार्क हैव द लाइटर बैकग्राउंड कॉन्ट्रास्ट यहाँ भी है. कॉन्ट्रास्ट एंड इंटेंसिटी, ये रेड जो है, रेड अपने बिल्कुल प्योरेस्ट फॉर्म पे है. जो रेड है अपने बिल्कुल प्योरेस्ट फॉर्म पे है, ग्रीन अपने प्योरेस्ट फॉर्म पे है. तो दैट्स द रीजन हर एक कलर जो है अपने प्योरेस्ट फॉर्म पे है, दैट्स क्रिएट अ सर्टेन कॉन्ट्रास्ट. द डिफरेंसेस बिटवीन टोन्स, दैट्स क्रिएट कॉन्ट्रास्ट. अच्छा, इस इमेज में तुम्हें कॉन्ट्रास्ट क्यों लगे? इट्स कॉल्ड द you can say it's psychological contrast basically. It's called psychological contrast. You can't compare it, but as in human beings, something that is your mind, right? And you see something that is totally different. That's a psychological contrast. Have you ever seen like a person like that, this kind of blood on hair and that kind of things is there? Have you ever seen that things? ऐसा जनरल लाइफ में देखते हो, हर कोई जा रहा है सर फूटा हुआ है, यू सीन दैट? ऐसा पॉसिबल नहीं होता ना हमेशा देखना. Sometimes you feel that. That creates certain psychological contrast. Just think about any person, right? जिससे नहीं मिले हो या मिलना चाह रहे हो या जो भी है, ऐसा कुछ. Have you ever imagined that person कि वो bald hair होगा? That creates psychological contrast कि because you imagine someone, किसी को भी सोचोगे as in human beings, तुम इसको ऐसा ही सोचोगे ना. That's a psychological contrast, है ना? So it's not, it's visible, but that is psychological. ऐसा नहीं कि वहां पर दिखाई देगा through the color, through the size, through the shape. You can feel that there is a contrast, but no, there is, because you are thinking something different and it's come up like another way, right? So that's create contrast. Now इसमें तो कलर का कोई डिफरेंसेस है? Is there differences of colors, color tone सब एक जैसा लग रहा है एक पेपर? There is no difference at all. But yeah, there is a contrast. क्या है contrast?
सर ये इधर पत्थर टूटे हुए पड़े हैं और वो ऊपर वो पूरा
ये
एक बिल्डिंग।
कंस्ट्रक्टेड अनकंस्ट्रक्टेड का जो है वो कॉन्ट्रास्ट है. कॉन्ट्रास्ट बिटवीन कंस्ट्रक्टेड और अनकंस्ट्रक्टेड, यही है.
ये सर।
See to it, read it once. No, guys, यहाँ question mark, explain this one. ये क्या है? What it is?
लोनलीनेस का कुछ फील दे रहा है ये, लाइक शी इज वेरी वास्ट एंड वो थोड़ा सा एक प्लेन पर पड़ा हुआ है, समथिंग वो सो रहा
Anyone have?
और वो थोड़ा सा वो साइलेंस का भी वो दे रहा है।
ठीक है, चलिए.
So sea and sand,
See and
sand.
sand से क्या हो रहा है?
So जो color contrast है और surface अलग है.
ठीक है. और कुछ भी, anything that you can explain ना, you have to explain the image on this. Explain. इसको छोड़ देते हैं. This one.
तो फ्लो एंड स्टीडनेस का कंट्रास्ट है इसमें, और कलर का भी है, लाइक वाइट के ऊपर वो एकदम डार्क सा दिख रहा है। मोशन का कंट्रास्ट मतलब।
दोनों कॉन्ट्रास्ट है जो आपने कर लिया. या राइट, दैट इज राइट आंसर. कि दो है, क्या कहते हो इसे, लिक्विड एंड सॉलिड का कॉन्ट्रास्ट है.
हाँ.
और ये कह सकते हो हार्ड एंड सॉलिड का कॉन्ट्रास्ट है, सॉलिड एंड जो आपका उसका है वो कॉन्ट्रास्ट है ना। दूसरा जो कॉन्ट्रास्ट आपने कहा क्या, मोमेंट एंड स्टैटिकनेस है, या तो ये भी एक कॉन्ट्रास्ट है ना। So in many ways you can explain any images. There's no only one ways that you can explain it, right? There's a many ways. So that's the thing that I wanted to explain. Ki your topic is contrast, but in starting it will be color contrast only. We'll give you the another topic in which there will be the size, there will be the line, but for tomorrow it will be the color contrast only, right? Your topic is contrast, and in contrast you have to capture it on only color. So separation between, अब ये मत करना इधर रेड टमाटर रख लेना, इधर ग्रीन वेजिटेबल रख लेना, creating contrast. There must be certain meanings within the frame. Starting doing a photo story, there should be some meaning when you are capturing it, right? कुछ तो मतलब हुआ, contrast बोल दिया, red blue कर दो और you are just done, I'm done. So it's not like that. So try to, you know, explain those things कि तुमने capture क्यों किया, what's the reason behind it, कि ये कॉन्ट्रास्ट से क्या बता, मे बी इट विल बी वेरी सिंपल स्टोरी और सिंपल थिंग्स, बट एटलीस्ट यू शुड नो दैट व्हाई यू कैप्चर्ड इट. सो होगा क्या, यू विल लर्न हाउ टू एक्सप्लेन इमेजेस, राइट? जैसे अभी मैंने आपको 3 इमेजेस दिखाया, यू स्टार्ट कीप थिंकिंग अबाउट इट ना, कि व्हाट इज इनसाइड द इमेजेस. Just like when you are capturing your own images, you must have to think of it. Before releasing the shutter, you must have to know why you are releasing it. What's the meaning of it that you are capturing it, right? At least you got a certain answer. Okay, that's the point. So today I'm not giving you guys break. The reason I have to go a bit earlier, so that's why. Sorry for today, it's long time. पूरा ज़्यादा खींच दिया आप लोगों को बिना break दिए हुए. So you're getting bored?
No, sir.
So anything that you wanted to ask, you guys can ask me. जो हमने पिछले क्वेश्चंस किए हैं वो, और इससे कुछ भी रिलेटेड हो तो you wanted to ask, you can ask me. Anyone have any doubt or anything? So, one more thing, by tomorrow, guys, please submit it by 4. Not after that, because I have to travel from there. So I'm not able to, you know, download it again. Have to make a file of it. And सारे images को अपने नाम से rename कर दोगे. So it's easy for me to explain it. Okay.
Sir, how many pictures?
How many pictures? 2 pictures. 2 pictures is possible.
Okay.
2 pictures is now contrast. It should be horizontal. If you are using your phone, use horizontal, don't use vertical. It means not 9/16. Your image should be 16/9. Right? So everyone got the topic? Any confusion?
So can you please repeat, like मेरा network connection बीच में lost हो गया
Okay.
था.
Your topic is contrast. When we are discussing the contrast, you got to know that the topic. Our topic is contrast. In contrast, you have to only capture on color contrast, basically. Within the images, there is a contrast. That is the color contrast. You must have to focus on it. That is color contrast. Suppose for an example, if I explain it to you right now, I was saying this book. The book दिख रहा है? अब इसमें क्या है? Contrast है, blue and yellow.
Yes, sir.
Right? आप कपड़े पहनते हो, क्या होता है? हमें कॉन्ट्रास्ट रखते हैं अपने शर्ट से, अपने ट्राउजर से, राइट? कॉन्ट्रास्ट रखते हैं ना. बेसिकली व्हाट वी आर मेकिंग कलर कॉन्ट्रास्ट, राइट? हम एक ही उसकी तरह, क्या नाम है रेस के जो डायरेक्टर है, व्हाट इज नेम इज, वाइट नहीं पहनते हैं. सो दैट्स अ कलर कॉन्ट्रास्ट व्हाट बेसिकली वी आर मेकिंग, राइट? कि 2 कलर के बीच का जो डिफरेंस है वो हमें दिखाना है, बट इन टर्म्स ऑफ कंपोजिशन दिखाना है. ऐसे नहीं कि कुछ लाल पीला रख दिया हो गया. there should be some sense of it, right? कि उस कंपोजिशन कोई सेंस बने. देन आप भेजो, ऐसा नहीं कुछ भी दिख रहा है एंड यू जस्ट कैप्चर इट, ओके नो सर ने कहा था कॉन्ट्रास्ट, नो हियर आई मेड द कॉन्ट्रास्ट. You must have to explain your images and do one thing instead of in conversation. If you explain, it's better to explain it in word. When you are sending it now, make a ppt, right? Ppt or what the word file, in word file paste your images and describe that images ki what point that you wanted to, right? So होगा क्या इससे, बोलने से ज्यादा बेहतर होगा if you write it down, you know how to write about the images, how to explain about the particular frame. So that's what I wanted to say. So anything else, guys, you wanted to ask?
Sir, and when we have to submit this?
By tomorrow, 4, before 4, before
Okay.
4 p.m. Right? Okay, guys. So